Your parents lied to you. Your guidance counselor lied to you. Your bank is actively lying to you right now. The financial rules you were taught growing up aren't designed to build your wealth. They are designed to extract it. If you follow the traditional American money script today, you will work until your body breaks down. You will die with a mortgage. You will leave nothing behind to your children but debt and a taxable estate. The middle class is being systematically hollowed out because they are playing a high-stakes game with a counterfeit rulebook. Clicking away from this video means accepting that fate. Look at the math. In 2026, the gap between labor income and asset yield hit a statistical breaking point. The Federal Reserve's own data proves it. Savers are getting slaughtered. The math of the middle class does not work anymore. It hasn't worked since 2008. I am going to tear down the 10 financial lies you have been fed since childhood. We will replace them with the exact mechanical truths the top 1% use to consolidate capital. Pay very close attention to how these traps interlock. Most of these will make you deeply uncomfortable. Lie number 7 is going to completely shatter how you view your primary residence, and it is the critical linchpin holding the working class down. Let's dismantle the trap. The first lie is the one that probably makes you feel the safest. You have been told your entire life that your primary residence is your biggest asset. It is the American dream packaged into a 30-year financial product. You buy a house, you live in it, it goes up in value, and eventually you are rich. That is a fundamental misunderstanding of what an asset actually is. Let me give you the exact definition wealthy people use. An asset puts money into your pocket without your physical labor. A liability takes money out of your pocket. When you buy a house to live in, what happens? You pay property taxes. You pay maintenance. You pay insurance. You pay interest to the bank. The house is actively draining your liquidity every single month. It is a massive, illiquid liability disguised as a wealth vehicle. Yes, the property might appreciate over 30 years, but when you factor in inflation, the cost of capital, the roof you replaced, the HVAC system that blew out, and the property taxes that increase every time the local government mismanages their budget, your real rate of return is functionally zero. The banking system wants you to believe your home is an asset because it locks you into geographical compliance. It makes you a dependable worker who cannot easily quit a job because you have a mortgage payment hanging over your head. The wealthy view a primary residence as an expense, a luxury consumption item. They buy income-producing real estate, apartment buildings, commercial spaces, warehouses, to generate the cash flow that pays for the house they actually live in. If you are banking on your primary residence to fund your retirement, you are relying on a math equation that guarantees you will end up house rich and cash poor. This bleeds directly into the second catastrophic lie. Save 10% of your income in a bank account and you will be fine. This advice was brilliant in 1982 when a savings account yielded 8%. Today, it is financial suicide. We operate in a fiat currency system designed to inherently lose purchasing power. Central banks print money to monetize government debt. This expands the money supply, which dilutes the purchasing power of every single dollar sitting in your bank account. Inflation is an invisible, unlegislated tax. When you put $10,000 into a high-yield savings account earning 4%, but the true cost of housing, healthcare, energy, and food is compounding at 7 to 9%, your purchasing power is bleeding out. You are losing money safely. The banking system relies on your financial ignorance to survive. They take your deposits, pay you a fraction of a percent, and lend that exact same money out for mortgages and auto loans at 7%. They arbitrage your fear. You are accepting guaranteed, slow impoverishment in exchange for the illusion of safety. The wealthy do not save fiat currency. They understand that cash is not a store of value. It is a medium of exchange. They hold exactly enough cash to cover operational expenses and emergencies, and they deploy every other dollar into hard assets. They buy equities. They buy businesses. They buy commodities. They exchange a depreciating paper asset for appreciating real assets. If you are hoarding cash, you are the yield that the rest of the market is harvesting. Which brings us to the third piece of childhood programming. All debt is bad and you must pay it off immediately. If you want to remain in the middle class forever, treat all debt like a disease. If you want to build wealth, you have to realize that debt is a tool, and like a chainsaw, it can either build a house or cut off your arm. The system trains you to fear debt because they want you to supply the capital, not leverage it. Let's look at how the rich actually operate. We just established that inflation destroys the value of money over time. If you take out a fixed-rate loan to buy an income-producing asset, inflation is actually paying off your debt for you. Let me make this concrete. Imagine you secure a $1 million loan at a 4% fixed interest rate to buy an apartment building. Over the next 10 years, inflation runs high. The value of the currency drops. The dollars you use to pay back that loan in year 10 are worth significantly less than the dollars you borrowed in year 1. Furthermore, the asset you bought is rising in value alongside inflation, and the rents you are charging the tenants are increasing. The tenants are paying off the debt, inflation is eroding the real cost of the principal, and you are capturing the equity spread. This is called shorting the dollar. It is the most powerful wealth-building mechanism of the modern era. Bad debt is borrowing money to consume depreciating items. Cars, clothes, vacations. Good debt is borrowing money to acquire assets that pay for the debt and put surplus cash in your pocket. Erase the morality from debt. It is not good or bad. It is strictly mathematical leverage. Line number 4 is the cultural religion of the middle class. Go to a good college, get a degree, and you will get a secure, high-paying job. We are living through the bursting of the higher education bubble. A degree was a guarantee of prosperity 50 years ago because it was rare. Today, it is a commoditized product sold by universities acting as hedge funds with educational tax exemptions. You are told to take on $50,000 to $100,000 in non-dischargeable federal student loan debt at age 18, before your prefrontal cortex is fully developed. You are trading a decade of future wealth accumulation for a credential that the market values less every single day. The economy has shifted from a credential-based hierarchy to a skill-based, leverage-based hierarchy. A job is linear income. You trade 1 hour of your life for a set amount of dollars. It does not matter if you make $20 an hour or $200 an hour as a specialized physician. If you stop working, the money stops. You have a cap on your time, which means you have a hard mathematical cap on your wealth. The wealthy do not seek linear income. They seek asymmetric leverage. They build software that can be replicated infinitely. They create media. They buy equity in private businesses. They decouple their earning capacity from their time. If your entire financial strategy relies on trading your finite lifespan for a paycheck governed by an employer who views you as a line item expense, you are engaged in a transaction you are mathematically guaranteed to lose. Line number 5 is the one that keeps intelligent people trapped in a cycle of consumerism. Your credit score is a measure of your financial health. Your credit score has absolutely nothing to do with your net worth, your cash flow, or your financial intelligence. A credit score is an I love debt metric. It is an algorithmic score designed by the banking industry to measure how profitable you are as a consumer of their loan products. It measures how reliably you borrow money and pay it back with interest. You can have $10 million sitting in a brokerage account, own your home free and clear, have zero debt, and have an abysmal credit score. Alternatively, you can make $60,000 a year, live paycheck to paycheck, juggle 4 credit cards, lease a car you can barely afford, and have a pristine 800 FICO score. The system trains you to obsess over this 3-digit number because it keeps you perfectly engaged in the credit cycle. They gamify your compliance. They offer you travel points and cashback rewards to convince you to route every transaction through their toll booth. The points are a psychological trick to numb the pain of spending. Studies consistently show that consumers spend up to 20% more when swiping a card versus handing over physical cash, because the card abstracts the loss. The banks gladly give you 2% cash back because they are inducing you to spend 20% more on the principal. You are not gaming the system by hacking credit card points. The system is gaming you. Before we move into the structural investment traps and the linchpin lie I promised you, We need to pause. If you are feeling a sense of friction right now, if you are realizing that the financial reality you were taught is an engineered maze designed to keep you running on a wheel, you need to change your inputs. You cannot beat a systemic trap with mainstream advice. Click the link in the description to join my private financial strategy newsletter. It is where I break down the exact capital allocation models, tax mitigation strategies, and market anomalies that the institutions do not want you looking at. It is completely free, and it is the only way to ensure you are operating with the actual rules of the game. Secure your access now, because the macro environment is shifting rapidly. Let's return to the architecture of the trap. Lie number 6. Diversification is the only way to invest safely, and you should hand your money over to a professional. Wall Street has sold the middle class on the idea that they are too incompetent to manage their own money, so they must buy actively managed mutual funds or target date retirement funds. They preach diversification, owning a tiny slice of 500 different companies as the ultimate shield. But diversification is a preservation strategy, not a wealth creation strategy. As Warren Buffett famously noted, diversification is a protection against ignorance. When you spread your capital across hundreds of mediocre companies just to hedge risk, you guarantee mediocre returns. The wealthy concentrate their capital to build massive wealth and only diversify later to protect it. But the real poison in this lie is the fee structure. Let's talk about the Assets Under Management, or AUM, model. Your financial advisor charges you a 1% fee to manage your money. 1% sounds harmless. It sounds fair. It is mathematically devastating. Over a 30-year investing horizon, a 1% annual fee will consume roughly 28 to 30% of your total potential wealth. Let me repeat that so the gravity of the theft sets in. You take 100% of the risk. You provide 100% of the capital. The market provides the growth. The advisor simply parks it in a fund, does functionally nothing, and extracts a third of your life's compounded returns. Wall Street built skyscrapers in Manhattan by skimming 1% off the top of middle-class retirement accounts. You must learn to allocate your own capital into low-cost index funds or direct asset purchases. Nobody will ever care about your money as much as you do. Now we reach the linchpin. Lie number 7, the ultimate trap. Paying off your mortgage early is the ultimate pinnacle of financial freedom. This is the psychological barrier that keeps the middle class from ever becoming truly wealthy. I told you this would shatter your perspective. Let's do the cold, mechanical math. Imagine you have a $500,000 house with a $300,000 mortgage at a 4% interest rate. You decide to be responsible. You aggressively pay an extra $2,000 a month toward the principal to burn the mortgage down. Every dollar you send to the bank gets trapped in the drywall of your house. It is dead equity. It yields exactly 0%. Your house does not appreciate faster because you owe less on it. The market dictates the value, not your loan balance. By trapping your liquid cash in an illiquid asset, you are voluntarily sacrificing the spread you could have made by investing that capital elsewhere. If you took that extra $2,000 a month and deployed it into the S&P 500 at a historical 8 to 10% return, you would be arbitraging the spread between your low-interest debt and the high-return asset. But it gets worse. Equity in a primary residence is effectively useless until you sell the house or borrow against it. If you lose your job and have a paid-off house but no cash liquidity, the bank will not let you pay for groceries with bricks. They will foreclose on your paid-off house if you cannot pay the property taxes. The wealthy understand the concept of return on equity. If they have massive equity in a property, they view it as lazy money. They do cash-out refinances, pull the equity out tax-free because debt is not taxable, and use that cash to buy another cash-flowing asset. They want their capital working relentlessly 24 hours a day. Paying off a low-interest mortgage early is an emotional decision based on fear, not a financial decision based on math. You are buying a feeling of security at the cost of millions of dollars in compounded future wealth. Line number 8 keeps you chained to the state. Taxes are just a part of life, and you pay your fair share based on what you earn. The middle class views the tax code as a penal code. They think of it as a set of rules dictating how much the government is going to confiscate from their paycheck. The wealthy view the tax code entirely differently. They view it as a map of incentives. The government wants certain things to happen in the economy. They want affordable housing built. They want energy produced. They want jobs created. The government is inefficient at doing these things, so they write the tax code to financially reward the private citizens who do it for them. If you operate as a W-2 employee, you are trading time for money. You produce nothing the government wants to specifically incentivize, other than raw tax revenue. Therefore, you pay the absolute highest bracket, often losing 30 to 40% of your labor before the money even hits your checking account. You are taxed on your gross, you live on the net. Business owners and investors operate in an alternate reality. They earn money. They spend that money on pre-tax deductions to expand their business or buy assets, and they are only taxed on the leftover margin. They live on the gross. They are taxed on the net. Furthermore, when they hold assets for the long term, they access capital gains rates, which are drastically lower than earned income rates. When they buy real estate, they use phantom deductions, like depreciation, to wipe out their tax liability entirely. A high-earning doctor making $400,000 a year is bleeding out to the IRS. A real estate investor generating $400,000 in cash flow might pay zero legally. Stop complaining about your fair share. Learn to read the map. Transition your income from heavily taxed linear labor to heavily incentivized capital gains and passive cash flow. Line number 9 is the psychological finish line that destroys ambition. Retirement is an age, specifically 65. The concept of retiring at 65 is a fabricated industrial-era construct. It was popularized in the late 19th century by German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck to quell Marxist uprisings. He implemented the first state-sponsored old-age pension system and set the age at 65. Do you want to know the dark joke behind this? The average life expectancy in Germany at the time was roughly 40 years old. The state set the retirement age fully knowing the vast majority of workers would die before they ever collected a single coin. We inherited this arbitrary number and turned it into the American standard. You are culturally programmed to accept that you must surrender the best, most physically capable 4 decades of your life to a corporation in exchange for the right to finally relax when your body is deteriorating. Retirement is not an age. Retirement is a mathematical equation. It is the exact moment when your passive income from your investments exceeds your living expenses. That is called escape velocity. You can reach escape velocity at 32 if you understand leverage, extreme capital allocation, and cash flow. You can fail to reach it at 70 if you succumb to lifestyle inflation and bad debt. The financial industry wants you to view retirement as a distant age because it keeps you blindly shoveling money into their target date funds for 40 years, allowing them to collect the management fees we discussed earlier. Define your number. Calculate exactly what it costs to fund your baseline existence. Multiply it by 25 to find your portfolio target based on the 4% rule, and relentlessly attack that number. Age is irrelevant. Math is absolute. And finally, line number 10. The psychological virus that ensures you will subconsciously sabotage yourself even if you master the other 9. Money is the root of all evil, and wanting wealth makes you greedy. This is the ultimate defensive mechanism of the impoverished mind. You cannot accumulate what you subconsciously despise. If you genuinely believe that wealthy people are inherently unethical, your brain will artificially cap your success to ensure you remain a good person. Society romanticizes struggle. We frame poverty as noble and wealth as corrupt. This is a cope. It is a narrative constructed to soothe the pain of financial failure. Let me give you the exact truth about capital. Money is entirely amoral. It has no consciousness. It has no agenda. It is simply pure, kinetic energy. It is a magnifying glass. If you are a selfish, destructive person, Having $1,000,000 will make you a highly efficient, destructive person. If you are a generous, community-oriented person, having $1,000,000 gives you the leverage to build hospitals, fund scholarships, and protect your family from the brutality of the world. Broke people cannot help broke people. The most selfish thing you can do is remain financially fragile, forcing your family and the state to subsidize your existence when an emergency hits. Acquiring wealth is not an act of greed. It is an act of extreme personal responsibility. It is building a fortress so that you never have to compromise your ethics, your time, or your family's safety because you are desperate for a paycheck. The system was never broken. It is functioning exactly as it was designed. It was designed to extract your labor, monetize your debt, and capture your savings to enrich the architects of the game. But now you see the architecture. You know why the savings account is a trap. You know why the mortgage payoff is dead equity. You know why your tax bill is a penalty for playing the wrong quadrant. You do not need to overthrow the system. You simply need to stop playing their game and start playing yours. You just need a different blueprint. The willingness to ignore the terrible advice of the people around you and the discipline to execute the math. That is where you start. That is where the extraction ends.